everybody, welcome again to the last class of the English course that we have for this opportunity. Okay, this is the lesson number 6. Okay, next week you're not going to have a video with lessons. Okay, you're going to be given a test for you to develop. So for this class we're going to do the following. The title is Identify the Origins of Moral Principles. So in the first part we have listen to summarize. So you have to listen to the two callers on a podcast. Okay, you have to write the sources each identifies as the origins of people's moral principles. Okay, so we are going to listen to this. Okay, remember I will upload this piece of listening, so you can have it. Okay, it's kind of long. Okay, 6 minutes. Okay, but what you have to do, how to say, according to Jake, moral principles come from, and according to Wednesday, moral principles come from. So let's see. Listen carefully.
I'm Daryl Reed, and you're listening live to the Reed Report. There comes a time when each of us is faced with an ethical dilemma, a situation in which we have to choose between two opposing moral principles. For example, a close friend may ask us to tell a lie in order to avoid getting into trouble. This presents us with a moral conflict. Which is more important? To always be truthful? Or is it more important to protect the ones we love? We all live by a set of moral and ethical principles that guide our actions and help us distinguish between what we think is socially acceptable or unacceptable behavior, or what we think is morally right or wrong. But where do these principles come from? Today, we invite you, our listeners, to explore that question. Our first caller is Jake from Toronto, Canada. Hi, Jake.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
So, Jake, have you been thinking about where you got your sense of right and wrong?
I have. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that most of us learn to distinguish between right and wrong from our parents, which begins from earliest childhood, eh?
I'm sure most of our listeners would agree with that.
I remember my mom and dad reading stories to us at night. There was always a moral to each story, in which a simple life lesson would be taught about the consequences of good and bad behavior.
And I'm sure your folks corrected you when you made mistakes, right?
Of course. But it wasn't just lessons that were, I guess you could say, formally taught. I felt more than anything that my siblings and I learned from our parents' actions. I mean, we saw everything they did, how my mom and dad related to each other, how they handled social situations with other adults, and whether they were truthful with us. We were fortunate that our parents always were.
It sounds like they were great parents.
They were, and are. I'm still learning from them as they get older.
So were there any other key influences in the development of your sense of right and wrong?
Well, I don't think we can ignore the role of our peers.
You mean your friends?
Friends, colleagues, classmates, all the people who grow up, study, and work alongside us. They all play a role in developing our moral principles.
You mean we're affected by whether or not they're honest? The way they treat other people? Maybe even their political views?
Totally. We're attracted to people whose words and actions provide a model of what we'd like to be.
Makes sense to me. So you're saying we learn from the people around us, right?
Definitely. They provide models of both good and bad behavior, which helps us develop a sense of what's okay and what's not.
Okay. And what about the role of religion?
Oh, our religious upbringing can play a huge role. All the world's religions teach the value of selflessness and helping others. Unfortunately, in some cases, our culture, or again our religion, may lead us to believe that our culture or religion is the best and that it alone offers the truth. This can create a feeling that other cultures or religions are inferior. As a result, instead of selflessness, it may lead to self-centeredness and a lack of caring for others.
A very good point. Thank you, Jake. Let's take another caller. Wency from Wuhan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Wency, you're on the air. What do you consider to have been the most important sources of your moral principles?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I've been thinking about it, and I think we also pick up our sense of right and wrong from the institutions in our lives. For example, the schools we attend, or the companies we work for. Some schools have clear guidelines for ethical behavior. For example, They might take a public stand against students bullying their classmates. We all feel stronger when our institutions make it clear where they stand on moral and ethical issues. In my company, we have a mission statement which provides ethical guidelines for all its employees to follow.
So it ensures that you and your colleagues make good choices and decisions that benefit the company and everyone in it.
That's right. However, I think we are also strongly affected by life events, especially really significant ones, such as a divorce, a sudden financial loss, an illness,
Good point.
or the death of a loved one. You know, here in Wuhan, we were the first place where people had to deal with the COVID-19 virus before it became a pandemic. I myself didn't lose anyone to the disease, thank goodness. But several of our neighbors did. An experience like that definitely has a huge effect on your moral principles. I was really moved by the way that people reached out to those who did lose family members and friends and whose lives were suddenly changed forever by that event. I'd say it brought out the best in us. People went shopping for their neighbors and made them food when they were in quarantine, which was really inspiring. It actually made me proud to be from Wuhan.
Thank you for sharing that, Wency. I think many of us around the world experience that kind of selflessness as well.
You know, we all get so busy with our own lives, we don't always think much about our neighbors or acquaintances. I think experiencing a catastrophic event like that, or even a personal disaster, such as a car accident, helps people slow down and reach out to each other. And we learn to see and appreciate each day differently from the way we had before that event.
Lots to think about. Thank you, Wency. Jane, do we have time for one other caller? No? I guess our time is up. I want to thank our 2 listeners for sharing their thoughts with us today, and I'll see you all again next week. Same place, same time.
Okay, good. It's kind of long, isn't it? Okay, but it's very interesting. So let's see what Jane says. Okay, according to Jane, moral principles come from parents. I agree with him. This is a very nice question that you can ask yourself. Okay, so maybe you may be asked that in the time. Okay, you will have to be able to answer that. Okay, according to Jane, moral principles come from parents, peers, culture, and religion. And according to her, moral principles come from institution life events. Okay, I think I agree with Jake. Who do you agree with? In my case, I agree with him. Okay, so understand from context. How can we understand from the context? Okay, so it is the same audio. You just have to write this down, okay, and check the answers. So let's see. If you find yourself having to choose between right and wrong, you're facing an ethical dilemma. 2. Moral is a simple life lesson in many children's storybooks. 3. An institution such as a school or company may take a public stand on moral and ethical issues by creating a mission statement. Okay, mission statement is the mission of an institution. Okay, listening for the main idea. So according to what you heard, what is the main idea of the text? The people and institutions we know and the events we experience all play a role in the development of our moral principles. Okay, good. Listen for supporting details. Finally, okay, this was a complete listening activity. Okay, so you have to read this and then listen to the podcast again. You can read this, listen to this because I uploaded this. And with a partner, or maybe of course yourself, identify examples given in the podcast of each of these situations. So let's see, an example of an ethical dilemma, when a close friend may ask us to tell a lie in order to avoid getting into trouble. An example of parents teaching values by their own actions. Parents relating to each other, handling social situations with other adults, being truthful with their children. An example of a peer, a friend, a colleague, classmate. Example of a positive effect of a religious upbringing. All the words religion teach the value of selflessness and helping others. This is a very interesting word. Selflessness. Write it down. Learn it. An example of a negative effect of a religious upbringing. Okay, so that sometimes religion may lead us to believe that our cultural religion is the best. Okay, sometimes people who are very religious, they are very much intolerant. Okay, so that is one of the drawbacks of it. Okay, that it alone offers the truth. This can create a feeling that other cultures and religions are inferior. As a result, instead of selflessness, okay, it may lead to self-centeredness and a lack of caring for others. Another important word, self-centeredness. 6. An example of how one school might reinforce value. Some schools have clear guidelines for ethical behavior, such as taking a public stand against students bullying their classmates. And finally, 7. An example of a life event. For example, the pandemic, okay, sudden financial loss, and so on. Alright, so this is the video number 1, okay? So we are going to continue in the video number 2.